Previously on Returning to RuneScape.
So, there I was, just minding my own business, back to killing innocent creatures for my Slayer Master's approval, when all of a sudden, boys, we got ourselves our first superior. Nuh-uh. So boys, I finally decided to try out one of the mini-games that everyone's been suggesting for me, and I chose to start out with giant foundries to try and break up some of the monotony that is smithing, especially smithing plate bodies for days at the Varrock Anvil. And after doing this, let's just say that I really wish that I had done this earlier, because this minigame is actually kind of fun. And for those of you who don't know about Giant's Foundry, it revolves around trying to create huge swords for a hill giant armory. The challenge comes from trying to master the forming of the sword and controlling the temperatures, all while needing to grind, polish, and tamp out the perfect blade for that specific order or commission. Overall, I found the minigame to be a very nice change on the way that you can train your smithing, and I found the experience to be incredibly good, considering the fact that you no longer need to be losing hundreds of thousands of gold to level it. I really wish I would have listened to you guys and used this to train smithing before this point, but hey, if I do decide to continue the grind into the later levels on this account, I'm glad I know it now. Also, my apologies to everyone who got 99 smithing before this came out. I hope you know you're a real Chad. After getting smithing up to 60, guys, it was time to take on the hardest skill for me to train, rune crafting. I know what you're expecting. You're expecting me to say this was a horrible grind, but even I never thought I'd say this, but I actually enjoy rune crafting now. I know. Let me explain. We'll have to back it up, and I'll elaborate. So after seeing how enjoyable and fun the smithing minigame was, I decided it was time to listen to everyone's advice once again and try out the rune crafting minigame, Guardians of the Rift. Basically, everyone's been recommending me to try this out since all the way back in episode 8. But before I could embark on this game, well, on this game within a game, I needed to first complete the quest, Temple of the Eye. So to start the quest, I had to head out to the desert lands of Al-Kharid, and I started this magical adventure. Once arriving, I was tasked with uncovering the secrets of this mystical amulet, and so off I went to visit multiple conveyors of the magical arts, especially surrounding runes, both of good and bad character and standing, as their knowledge was important regardless of which god they may or may not be aligned to. And now, speaking of people with, well, less than reputable characters, first on the list to visit was my old friend, the Mage of Zamorak, and his bright, bubbly personality. So off I went to Varrock to visit him in his ultra, super secretive location, right out in the open in the back end of Varrock. And after arriving and speaking to him, I was tasked with retrieving him some tea, because apparently he was just too lazy to walk over and get some himself. But I guess I wouldn't be the world's greatest errand boy if I didn't, run errand. I should ask Jagex to make me a cape with a DoorDash or an Uber Eats symbol on the back, because I'm basically a walking food delivery service at this point. But nevertheless, I did what was asked of me, and I returned with a nice cup of tea. After a brief chat, I was then tasked with talking to the Dark Mage, whose duty it was to keep the chaotic void at bay, while the Zamorakians used its power to craft runes. This part was pretty simple. I just basically annoyed the guy until he gave me a puzzle. And once I solved the puzzle, I was sent on my way to the wizard's tower so that I could talk to a poor old wizard who was suffering from dementia. And honestly, I felt even worse for his poor apprentices who were given different riddles to solve, who apparently must not have the power of Quest Helper, because they definitely weren't going to solve it without my help. So after saving the lives of these poor apprentices, we set out to discover the mysterious world that was behind the now uncovered portal. And after arriving into what I thought was a beautiful landscape filled with vibrant foliage and statues, I soon realized that things weren't as they seemed. For it was only moments and we discovered an even larger portal that quickly engulfed one of the wizards. And this is where I learned of my role in the Guardians of the Rift, for it was my duty to make sure that these giant portals of chaos do not overtake the world of RuneScape. So quickly after finishing the quest, I hopped over to World 425, which is an official world of the minigame, and started my journey into 60 rune crafting. Like I said earlier, boys, this grind honestly wasn't even that bad. I mean, compare it to crafting fire runes all the way to level 50, this was a straight up breeze. The ability to actually have multiple working parts and to feel like you're actually doing something other than just running to the bank and back, it feels amazing. And to top it off, you can actually make a decent little bit of coin, or gather a nice collection of useful runes for yourself. This minigame gets a solid 10 out of 10 in my book. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot, you even get a little sprinkle of crafting and mining experience on top of it all. And honestly, before too long, I was 60 in rune crafting. Bam! Just like that, everybody. 60 rune crafting. This has actually been kind of fun. Look at everybody. This has actually been a fun little grind. I'm not gonna lie to you. 60 rune crafting out of the way, boys. It feels so freaking good. So Let's go over here and go and check out our rewards. I haven't gathered any rewards. And then I got Alex's Diary, Giant Pouch, Large Pouch, and 30 Abyssal Pearls, and 157k. So, hey, we'll take it. Plus all the runes that I made, which I think it was about 200k worth, 2 or 300k worth. So like 500k from this grind. Honestly, not bad at all. I never thought I'd get to this point. Back when I was doing the grind to 50, I thought I was gonna die getting all the way up to level 50. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I could ever get 60 in rune crafting. And now with that level, this meant I only had construction, strength, and defense left before I was 60 in all my stats, boys. And now it was time to swing a hammer, boys. You know, I always like to save construction for one of the last skills that I get on these grinds. Mainly because after the grind of some of the other tedious skills, it's really nice to see one that can just gain levels in an absurdly small amount of time. Also, I'm really cheap, so seeing how expensive this skill is really hurts me to my core. But pain aside, a grind isn't even a grind, really. I think it took me a little over an hour, and I went from 50 construction to 60 just by making and disassembling oak larders. Now, I do believe I was in this for about 1.5 mil in supplies, but hey, I bet I can make my house look pretty cool now, because honestly, looking around here, I haven't done a single thing to it. But now, I have achieved 60 in every skilling stat, and it was time for 2 remaining skills, 60 strength and 60 defense. Thankfully, I'm already level 58 in both of those, so it was going to be no problem finishing off 60 in every skill, boys. And now that we had finally returned to combat training, I figured I would listen to a suggestion that a bunch of people have given me along the way, to kill the new rat boss, Scurious, for some insane combat experience while also learning different boss mechanics. This is going to be a double banger for me because it also satisfies my lust for killing bosses in this game, and at the same time rewarding me with massive experience. So what's not to love? So off I went to slay the giant rat king residing underneath all of our feet in the Varrock sewers. It did not take long for me to discover people were not lying when they said that this guy was some of the best combat experience that you can get. Not only does he teach you good management of prayer switching and mobility, specifically while watching the terrain during the fight, the rewards essentially offset any of the cost of your supplies. Now, even without any of his Ratbane weaponry, I was still getting great experience. However, thankfully, around my 8th kill or so, I received a rat spine, which allowed me to create a bone mace that has heavily increased abilities towards Scurious. And once I had that, boys, it was game over. I was able to watch all the combat experience fly by, and it really did not take long at all, and I had both 60 defense and 60 strength. And with those two out of the way, I had officially hit my goal of 60 in all stats, and a total level of over 1,450. Now, with that being said, I'm going to say this is probably going to be the best point for the end of this week's episode. I truly do hope you guys enjoyed, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next one, where we're going to dive in head first into the deep world of RuneScape bossing, and we're going to see firsthand what this game has to offer in more in-game PvM situations. So make sure not to miss the next episode of Returning to RuneScape.